Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. As always, we really appreciate you taking your time. I hope you've managed to sort of cut through a bit of mission critical work and check in with colleagues and do all those little things, but you've switched off all your applications and your Slack and all that sort of stuff. And you've grabbed a coffee and a tea, maybe a biscuit, and you're ready to join us for what's a really, really exciting session. On behalf of Kyocera and Innovatus Media, this one's entitled Designing Out Waste, Why Implementing Circular Economy Practices is Crucial to a Meaningful Sustainability Landscape. How exciting is this, to have a look at all of our businesses and think about how we can contribute to the energy around circular economy at the moment. I really hope that you can sort of take some key learnings and then bring that back into your business and drive some good dialogue around this. Before we kick off, though, I would like to acknowledge the traditional landowners on which the session's being produced. I'm on Gadigal land. It's almost spring. It looks like spring, but it's chilly. So the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, I pay my respects to elders past and present, as well as any elders or emerging leaders that might be with us online today. Okay, so I'll do a bit of a tech and ops check. I mean, what is it? September 2022. So everybody basically has a PhD in live and digital events, which is a nice silver lining. If you can see or hear me, that's 95% of your problems flying away. It's all browser based. So any issues, just refresh that browser. Another thing as well is we do like to sort of get some chat going. I'm going to say hello in the chat group. Feel free to say hi. Steve was keen to also hear what organisation you're from, so feel free to jump in. Let us know where you're from, and maybe where you're dialing in from. Perhaps you'll more than likely get me jealous, to be honest. So let us know where you're jumping in from, and at any point in time, we like to create just an ongoing dialogue. So feel free to pop some questions in there, as well as any comments and any areas that you find really meaningful. Definitely let us know. On that note, we'll have a bit of fun with the best question prize. So as always, we do a bit of a best question prize. I think this is primed for summer. Willie the Boatman, a nice local brewery in Sydney. This is a bit of everything. So best question gets you a bit of everything. So I think it's 17 different beers, but they've also got all the sour beers and the seltzers and all that sort of thing. So you don't have to be a beer person. So as always, typical rules, make them challenging, make sure the presenters are sort of sweating by the end of it. And you could end up with the prize. So I'll leave that one to you. I'll introduce the presenters now. Look, we're all super fortunate to have the time of both these presenters, true subject matter experts in the space. But before I kick off, as I said, the session's been brought to you by Kyocera. So just on that, sustainability has been a core focus for Kyocera, basically with a simple philosophy of reduce, reuse, recycle, and ultimately driving innovation across their product range. So Kyocera, it's pretty simple stuff. They believe that to achieve meaningful, sustainable outcomes, business leaders need to choose partners that align to their own environmental goals. So very much like IT and all other areas of business, it's super important to collaborate with the right people that'll get you there. So this is why Kyocera is really proud to partner today's session and partner with the presenters that are online to work towards this more sustainable future. So I'll just get the gentleman to say hi. We've got Ryan Collins. So he's the head of Circular Economy Program at Planet Ark Environmental Foundation. G'day, Ryan. And
hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. And Steve Morris. So Steve's the founder of Close the Loop. G'day, Steve.
G'day, Simon. Good morning, everybody.
Wonderful. So I'll just go through a little bit about the agenda. We'll set some guardrails, but as I said, let's keep it nice and casual. We'll be having a look at an overview of the circular economy and an introduction on that, give you some base ideas. have a look at the benefits of transitioning from a traditional linear value chain to a circular economy, as well as looking at designing out waste and increasing resource efficiency to keep materials in use. This is all really practical stuff. And the importance of partnering with providers that match your sustainability goals. It certainly is an area where you can stand on the shoulder of giants. Let's get a bit of a pulse of the audience before I hand over to the presenters. I was saying before the call, circular economy, it's kind of been there within businesses. There's been a lot of interpretations. I think we're all sort of, still learning. So I'll put this one up and see what we get, what we can get. Bear with me a moment. Sorry about this. Here we go. I found the one there. So I'll pop this one up and see what we get. How knowledgeable would you say you are about the concept of the circular economy? So extremely knowledgeable, very knowledgeable, somewhat, have heard of it, or never heard of it. So we'll put that through and let it run. Let's have a quick look here and see what comes up. So Ryan, it looks like we've got a pretty good spread of responses, sort of sitting in that middle range, somewhat to very heard about it. Is that kind of your take on the current landscape, that everybody's sort of kicking off on that journey?
Yeah, I think so. We've got quite a number that say that they've got some knowledge. About a third that have never heard of it, about 5% that say they've never heard it, and then those that don't really understand the details of the concept. And it's quite interesting how that relates or links in with the research that we've done. Last year, we released a report looking into the awareness, knowledge, and perceptions of the concept of a circular economy. And we found that business decision makers at that level said that they felt quite knowledgeable about the concept, so about 81%. The interesting thing, though, is that we also asked them to identify what the definition of a circular economy was, and we found that only 27% could correctly identify it. So you'll see there that there's quite a big knowledge gap, and there's also quite a big perception of knowledge gap as well. So the more you learn about the circular economy, I think the more you realize you don't know about the circular economy. So let's get into what is a circular economy. So we're overshooting Earth's planetary boundaries at the moment. There's a organization called Global Footprint Network, and they have a day called Earth Overshoot Day that marks the date each year when we have used all the biological resources that the Earth regenerates during the entire year. And this year that date fell on the 28th of July. So we basically had used all our resources, biological resources that could regenerate within a year, almost halfway or just over halfway through the year. And that's kind of the result of our linear economy, which we predominantly work in. We draw materials from the earth, they're used in production, households and businesses use those products, and then it's thrown away. The circular economy is really a new way to design, to make and use things, and having the end of life of those products in mind, and keeping within the limits of the planet as well. So what really is at the heart of circular economy thinking is that in the natural world, materials and nutrients cycle continuously. The following diagram shows kind of a bit more of the complexity of a circular economy. we obviously draw those primary resources. Part of the circular economy will be using renewable energy. And then we use those materials for manufacture and then for remanufacture as well. But the design aspect or the redesign aspect is really critical here. As you work your way around, you've got the distribution networks, you've got retail, you've got use by the householders and consumers. And then it's the end of life of those products where there's collection and separating. And then as you look down the bottom, you'll see a number of circles. Now, the smaller the circles, such as reuse, the more positive the environmental impact is. So reuse, you're going to have a better outcome because you're using all the resources and energy that went into making those products again. And then you've got repair, dismantle, recycle, and recover as well as you go down the hierarchy. And then those materials are used in remanufacturing, and so it goes. Now I might get Steve to talk to the first point. Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Just before I do, I'd like to give a bit of a background as to the relationship between Close the Loop and Planet Ark, because it is pivotal to today's discussion, and that is around collaboration. And particularly both our organisations, Close the Loop and Planet Ark, have for a long time had a shared vision, which includes Australia's transition to a low-carbon circular economy. Now, about 17 years ago, we co-created a very successful program called Cartridges for Planet Ark, and we've been working very, very closely ever since, and about to celebrate the 50 millionth cartridge that we've recycled. And I would like to start here by introducing these three principles as to just get the point across that circularity is quite simple. And to have an impact doesn't mean that we have to all be 100% circular in our businesses or our personal lives. It's about continuous improvement. And these three foundation pillars of circularity will give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So the most important element, in my opinion, of our transition to a circular economy is to consider design. Now, designing out waste and pollution in everything we do, product design, systems design, business model design, even lifestyle design, it's all about beginning with the end in mind. And in this case, the end is to keep products, one end is to keep products and materials in circulation for as long as possible. Now, what that means is, can we design products to last longer? And also, can we design products to increase the value and the ease with which we recover the raw materials, those technical nutrients at the end of life? And then the final foundation principle of circularity is regeneration, regenerating natural systems and regenerating human systems, which are obviously natural systems as well. So regeneration is often misunderstood and the most difficult concept of circularity to get your head around, really, because it's not just about planting trees, although we all love Tree Day and we all love to plant trees. It's also about regenerating culture, regenerating soul and human spirit. So very interesting. If we move on to the next one, I'm going to give you an example of good design. And, guess what? That's Kyocera again. And I can speak with some authority on this, having started Close the Loop some 22 years ago. And before that, I was a cartridge remanufacturer. So know this particular product stream very well. And Kyocera has always been well known for good design. In this example, you can see how a typical toner cartridge, the Kyocera componentry is, less than 10 components. And, your other conventional toner cartridge, which is used, might have up to 20 or 30 different components. and different materials, which makes the recovery of those components at a high value. That means at a purity that is reusable, is much easier with a simple design. In the case of this Kyocera cartridge and many others just like it from Kyocera. No, sorry, I said it. I said it wrong. Kyocera. We can recover polystyrene and other polymers to reuse again in other high value applications. Over to you again, Ryan.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I agree. Design is so important. That principle. 80% of the environmental impacts are determined at the design stage. So really, waste is a design flaw in my eyes. And yeah, regenerate natural systems is also so important, and it shows that the focus of the circular economy is on doing good versus reducing harm. And that can be in any of our natural cycles and human cycles, as Steve said: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, water. So these principles are and being underpinned by renewable energy. This is how we can create a system that restores biodiversity, addresses climate change, and makes the most of our resources. Okay, so these are 5 circular economy business models. Now, there's a few ways you can describe circular business models, but what they, I guess, have in common is that you're prioritizing access over ownership or value over consumption. So the first one is circular supply. So this is where inputs and design and production are either recovered through recycling, they're renewable, or they're biodegradable. Extended life is, as it says, you're prolonging the lifespan and value of the product, whether that's through repair, remanufacture, or resale or redesign. So, Steve, I think you had another good little case study there on this point.
Oh yeah, just a simple example of extended life is the silicon, the drum in a Kyocera cartridge, which is actually a ceramic drum, has up to 600,000 cycles compared to your traditional coated aluminium drum in a toner cartridge, which would have way less than half that many cycles. It's just another example of how good design leads to extended life, leads to circularity. Ryan?
Great, thanks, Steve. The third business model is share. So that's where that's the usage of products and services being shared across several users. So think of car sharing like GoGet, tool libraries, etc. Another business model is product as a service. So the household or business is purchasing a service rather than a product or asset. And there'll be some examples of this and some of the other business models coming up. And then there's resource recovery, recycling the waste materials, getting them out of landfill, which also displaces the extraction of natural resources as well. Okay, so this is, I'll go through a couple of great case studies. This is the first one, Signify Lighting, where they introduced the world's first light as a service program. So most LED lights are designed to be sealed for life, where they can't be disassembled. So Signify designed a modular light where you can disassemble them, you can replace parts, etc. So what they do is that they provide lighting as a service by, through that ongoing maintenance, swapping out of broken parts of that modular light, and then, adjusting them and adapting them to customer needs. So, they work with warehouses and factories and office buildings as well. And then what they also do is they manage the end of life of the product as well. So, you know, some of their achievements is that 90% of their manufacturing waste is recycled, and currently about 16% of their revenue is generated from circular activities like this, and they expect that to double by 2025. So it's a good example of Principle 1, designing out waste and pollution, and of the product as a service business model as well. One of my favorite topics, coffee. Kua Coffee is a company that's, as it says there, creating closed loop cuppers for workplaces. They source their coffee from smallholder farms, and they pay above UTZ certified price. So that's a sustainable label that's now part of the Rainforest Alliance. So the farms are getting a fair price for their coffee. The coffee is delivered to to cafes, to workplaces in reusable drums. So that's also used to collect the grounds that is basically the waste from making coffee. Those grounds are used as a source of food, I guess, for local community gardens. So that's, eliminating the waste. And then the profits go to supporting the regeneration of over-cultivated land. And that's also has a bonus of offsetting their carbon footprint in the process. You see there that, that those reused drums are saving 500 single-use bags from landfill, which is fantastic. And 100% of their waste, the waste coffee goes to those community gardens. So it's a great example of Principle 3 regeneration, and of a couple of business models, extended life of the drums and the product as a service. The Key Quarter Tower in Sydney. So this is the AMP building redevelopment. It's Circular Quay. For those in Sydney, you may have seen this at some stage. But it's basically one of the biggest upcycling projects ever undertaken. It's implementing that design principle on a gigantic scale, really. AMP Capital, the development team, worked with a whole range of architects, engineers, and builders to reach firstly the 5.5 star neighbours rating and 6 green star building rating as well. So I mean, that's just an example. It's obviously a mammoth project, but it needs collaboration amongst a whole range of stakeholders. But the achievements are fantastic. They're amazing, really. 50% of the resources for that new building were sourced from the previous one. That's unheard of, really, for on this scale. 7,500 tons of CO2 were saved from reusing the materials, and then they've also saved $130 million compared to a full demolition and new rebuild. So, a great case study there. It's looking at keeping using Principle 2, keeping products and materials in use, and resource recovery. Another favourite topic of mine, Juck Surf. They are an Australian startup founded by a team of 4 surfing aerospace engineers. So it's an interesting little case study where they have created the first 100% recycled carbon fibre surfboard. Now, carbon fibre is a lightweight but very strong material used in aircrafts, wind turbines and cars. But there's a total lack of viable recycling options, means that it just ends up in landfill. So Juck Surf works with suppliers to supply them with these materials that would otherwise go to landfill. And they also design in bioresin, recycled PET plastic as well into these surfboards. And then the boards, if they're damaged, if they firstly can't be repaired, then they will be recycled as well at the end of their life. Again, a principle showing an example of principle number 2, keeping products and materials in use, and the resource recovery business model. Now, Steve, I think you might want to talk about this one.
I know this one quite well, mate. Yep. So this is Tonoplast. Tonoplast began with a problem. The problem was based on Close the Loop beginning its life on the brand promise of zero waste to landfill. Quite a naive, but a very powerful brand promise that's driven a lot of innovation within Close the Loop over the journey. And Planet Ark organises third-party audits of Close the Loop to that brand promise, because that's the brand promise of our cartridges for Planet Ark program as well. So in this case, we needed to find a high-value solution for waste toner powder from cartridge waste, which is a polymer, would you believe? So Tonoplast was a 10-year overnight success, as we call it, and now has got a lot of success in both council and more recently state roads. It's an additive to asphalt that is a bitumen replacement. It also extends the life of an asphalt pavement, reducing its carbon footprint. So I suppose that's another example of principle 2 of keeping products and materials, in this case materials, in circulation for longer, adding value and replacing fossil fuel derived virgin materials. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Steve. So why circular economy? Well, globally we use a gigantic amount of raw materials every year. That's a very big number there. Probably a bit hard to comprehend, but I think what is critical here is that less than 10% of this is reused, and the rest is wasted. In Australia, on average, every Australian generates about 3 tons of waste per year. So if you're multiplying that by perhaps your age, and then multiply that by the population of Australia, that's another very big number. I think this is one of the key points missing from climate discussions. It's a really important point about the circular economy. If we transition to renewables as an energy source, it'll help tackle about 55% of global emissions. But what about the remaining 45%? They're all associated with the way that we make products. But that's what the circular economy can address, is that 45%. And that includes agriculture and food production as well. So Steve, I think you can take the first point here. I'll leave it with you.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about reduced energy consumption, it's really interesting, I think, to contemplate how good design contributes to reduced energy consumption. Again, using the example of Kyocera, where this particular Japanese company has continuously reduced the amount of energy required by its imaging devices, printers, copiers, for example. Just an everyday practical example of how simple the transition to circularity can be.
Yeah, so true. If we're not consuming as many products but still have the access, then the energy and resources that go into those products last longer. The second there, so these are kind of economic and social benefits, if you will, of a circular economy. It can address resource scarcity, and this is a simple case of reusing materials instead of burying them in the ground. It can create jobs and extends the value of products. a recent New South Wales circular report estimated that the circular economy in New South Wales could generate about 50,000 jobs over the next 5 years in built environment, manufacturing, transport, etc. Material efficiency can also increase GDP. Another report by KPMG found that by 2025, a circular economy could give a $23 billion GDP boost for Australia. It's also a trigger for innovation, leading to market disruption, and I think Signify lighting is, a good example of that as well. Oh, I think we've got the poll coming up, do we, Matt?
We do, and I'll pop that poll up, but just on that previous slide as well, here we go. There's a lot of this covered off in the handouts, so I just wanted to do a call out on that. KFC has put some really good handouts together based on some of these talk tracks, so feel free to jump in and grab them as well, because they can be a great resource to you. I've just got a note from Philip saying that they're not available. We'll just switch those ones on. But the next poll, I'll pop that one up first. How familiar are you with the benefits of a circular economy to your organization? It's so interesting that a lot of the use cases that were put forward had some really good fiscal outcomes as well. There's some really strong benefits, and I love this concept of design and what that means, because that's also reducing a lot of costs in material and how people go about sort of producing goods. So I'll pop this one up just to get a bit of a vibe. Extremely familiar, very familiar, somewhat familiar. So it looks like, the group online is sort of sitting in, they're probably aware of where their organization can take some of these concepts and benefit from them. But yeah, around 15% is extremely familiar. So there's still more that you can learn, I guess. Ryan, is that what you kind of expect of Australian organizations at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a sense that that there are benefits, and that I think the answers to the poll there reflect that. But there's probably, probably most organisations or people don't realise what all the benefits are. So part of that research from last year, we found that an overwhelming majority of business leaders said that the circular economy will be very important to their business, and that's consistent across different types of businesses and different size organizations as well, which is interesting. Some more benefits when you look at GDP. There was some estimates that globally it could be worth $4.5 trillion US. In Australia, $210 billion benefit to GDP by 2048. And then, the environmental benefits, shrinking emissions by 39% globally. And then, achieving, it's also a framework to help you achieve sustainable development goals as well. And I believe these references are available if you would like access to them. So, what are the business benefits of a circular transition? Firstly, it enables new paths to growth, whether it's via efficiencies or new business models for products and services. It's a way potentially to reach new customers as well. Another benefit is that innovation, brand reputation, and having a competitive edge. More than ever, customers are wanting to see businesses operating with sustainability and the climate in mind. But it also helps you develop deeper and longer relationships with customers as well. Another benefit is reduced energy consumption and waste, as you've seen in some of those examples. Every business needs to look at this. Plus, it moves on to the next point, that it's a cost cutting measure as well. This was identified also as the most common benefit of circular economy from our research last year as well. And another benefit is less supply chain risk. So by having that circular material flow, having recycled content in your inputs, it guards against disruptive events as well, like COVID, for example. Local supply versus riskier international supply. But it's all about collaboration along the supply chain and finding those flexible solutions. Steve, did you want to add anything there?
I totally agree with all of that, Ryan. There are companies that are seeing their responsibility, I suppose, to ESG, CSR, these types of things, as being business as usual these days, rather than something that I've got to do because of external pressure. For example, Myer, a large retail chain, has recently launched a trial cosmetics take back program, and I was inspired to mention that, noting that somebody on this call is from Myer. Just another great example of how you can actually create new paths to growth by reaching out to assist your consumers. But on your point of collaboration, it only works when the manufacturers of the cosmetics products, when the retailer, when the end of life, when good design has been put into the products in the first place. So it's all about collaborating. It's about finding those supply chain partners that share your values and goals and aspirations. And the sky's the limit of those new paths to growth.
So almost 2 years ago now, Planet Ark launched the Australian Circular Economy Hub. Now this is a very busy slide, but the ACE Hub is, as we call it, is many things. But probably what it can offer can be broken down into two simple things. It offers knowledge and it offers connection as well. This is our ever-changing stakeholder ecosystem. So we work with our funding partners. We have technical supporters. So these are circular economy consultants that we work with. And then we also have collaboration partners. So these are other circular networks or organizations working in specific states or specific areas of circularity. And then you've got, we have a number of working groups as well, and the online hub portal, which I'll go into a little bit more detail here. So this is a networking platform for businesses, for decision makers in government, for the community and circular economy experts. It's a place where you can learn more about the circular economy, where you can actually collaborate, innovate, share ideas, and develop circular economy solutions and enable that action. This is free to join, and accessing the ACE Hub online is also free as well. So we have a learning platform online. Again, it's you don't need to. It's free to access that. It's called the Knowledge Hub. So no matter what part of the journey of circularity you're beginning at or in the middle of, there'll be information there for you, as well as a whole range of case studies if you're looking at trying to find a case study for perhaps your industry. As you saw, yeah, we do research. We've got a state of circularity report coming up as well that will be launched in a couple of months. And then, yeah, through the online portal, we've got that connection as well. There's more tools coming as well. We've got plans for a marketplace and a research directory. And there will be a handout provided on how you can get involved. And this is probably what you'll see in the handout. So there's a newsletter that you can subscribe to, or you can join the ACE Hub portal. There's links to the Knowledge Hub. And if you're at the beginning of your journey and you want to look at some practical things to do with the waste of your business, then we've got the War on Waste Toolkit for Business on business recycling. We've got National Recycling Week coming up in November in about 2 months' time, and workplaces can get involved in that. There's some fun activities like recycling trivia, etc. So so have a look there. Of course, if you use printer cartridges and you don't have a recycling option, then sign up to Cartridges for Planet Ark. And if you have questions about your household waste, reuse, and recycling options, check out Recycling Near You as well.
Thanks so much for that, Ryan, and Steve as well. I think everybody online, you've really not only gotten some really good insights on the fundamentals of the circular economy, but some really, really great use cases. Some of them, really remarkable and encouraging for us all. And then some other use cases that are just so practical, which is so good as well, as we all sort of start on this transition to building circular economy principles into our business. We've got some really good questions that have come through. So I'll put these up and get your commentary, guys, just as we close up. Really good question here from Kendall. Trust and transparency are integral factors in creating a thriving circular economy. Can the presenters talk to how businesses can avoid circular washing? Steve, did you want to have a go at that first?
Yeah, thanks, Kendall, and hi. Yeah, look, circular washing, I hadn't heard that before, but it is the obvious progression from greenwashing, isn't it? Look, I think it's about due diligence. We're doing some work now with some very large brands, and I must admit that the due diligence they're doing on Close the Loop as the product stewardship company, the end of pipe, the resource recovery partner is phenomenal. And I think that is due to the large amount of circular washing that is going around and around at the moment, Kendall. Trust and transparency. I often say that the circular economy calls for a new type of business intelligence, a type of emotional intelligence where we do trust, where we do collaborate more. I think traditionally we are programmed to compete, and that's not always going to be the ideal outcome when you're looking at collaborating with an entire supply chain. We've got to trust each other and be transparent in our actions. So can the presenters talk to how businesses can avoid circular washing? Yeah, definitely more due diligence, more alignment with global standards, fair trade type standards, human rights and these type of activities. And then independently audited claims, like, for example, Close the Loop claims zero waste to landfill. Well, it's no good coming out of my mouth. I've got to be able to prove that independently. And I think just test every claim that partners are giving.
Yeah, there's a lot of data out there, isn't there, for that transparency piece. Ryan, did you have anything to add on that one, or?
Yeah, I mean, trust is so important here. It takes a long time to build, but it can end quite quickly. So um, having that transparency and engagement is really critical. If you're procuring items, look for certifications, third-party certifications as well that are trusted. So
Yeah, great. So focus on that, the trust piece. Love the outcomes piece as well. Getting external perspectives on some of your results. There's a question that comes through from Chloe. I'm going to bring it up because it's probably one that a lot of people get asked. I get asked a lot to define the difference between a recycling system and a circular economy. Can you provide an easy explanation for this?
Yeah, I'll have a go at that. Sorry, Ryan. We'll both have a go at that. An easy explanation is that recycling is only a very small part of the circular economy. Circularity is more about good design than anything, in my opinion. Recycling is low-hanging fruit because we have a lot of legacy issues, Chloe. Legacy issues including bad product design and business models that don't allow for reuse and some of those other business models that Ryan said. So at the moment, the low-hanging fruit is recycling, but it's just a very, very small part, albeit important, very small part of circularity.
Yeah.
Anything to add there, Ryan?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Steve's saying. There's kind of another way to describe circular economy, and that's the 10 R's, and recycle is just one of those R's. So it starts off the higher order priorities like reuse, reduce, waste, redesign, and recycling's one of the last ones that you do before you do these other R's. So that's one way. Circular economy, it's a principle, or it's a framework more than what recycling is, because recycling is just one part of that framework. And if you go back to those three principles, that I think can help show that it's more than just recycling.
Yeah, great. There's a really good question here from Philip. I'm loving the diversity of the questions as well. Whilst the circular economy initiatives that also have direct economic impacts will be relatively easy to implement, sort of like what's in it for me, there are many initiatives where the benefits may not directly benefit those who are in the position to initiate them. How do we overcome these split incentives to encourage the best environmental outcomes? It's a good question, isn't it, Ryan? Because it does sort of say, it's simple to do if there's cost savings and this and that, and it's building, creating a more sustainable business. But how do you go outside of that?
Yeah, I guess it's looking at all the different benefits as well, and how you can build on those benefits or use them to your advantage, whether it's having that competitive edge and explaining to customers what your business is doing. In terms of, I guess, enabling action, it won't just be down to businesses. Business can do a lot, but it's also governments introducing policies that support these types of initiatives as well. There's been investment, I guess, investment help from government in terms of recycling infrastructure, for example. But there is a lot that can still be done in terms of policy as well.
It's a bit.
Anything to add to that, Steve?
Oh, just that obviously it depends what context Phil was talking about there. But for me, this sort of rings of contribution. If the benefits don't directly impact us, then as long as they're contributing to our transition to circularity, then what comes around, what goes around comes around. In other words, what we give, so shall we receive. So continue to contribute. That's how I approach it from a business perspective. It's not always about what directly benefits our business, it's how we can contribute to a broader transition to circularity. So I feel that might be a little simplistic, mate, but
Yeah, no, that's great. It is a big challenge, and I guess to get on the radar of some organisations as well. But some really good ideas there. This one came through from Brooke pretty early, but we'll pop it up. We don't have circular economy principles in place now. Where do we start? And I guess the big one is, what are some of the key questions that we should be asking about business? So, guys, you're jumping into a new organisation and you're kicking off. What are some of the things that you like to find out? Probably start with yourself, Steve.
Yes, it's the answer to this is going to be extremely relevant to what industry we're in and what our existing business model is. But I'd be starting with the business model. Can we design out waste? Do we manufacture? If we manufacture, there's a fairly simple place to start. How can we design waste out of our products for the entire life cycle, not just the manufacturing or the use phase, and then design the actual business model. How do we deliver value to the consumer, or if it's business to business, how do we deliver value to our customer? And that's where I would start, on those two areas of design. And if there's other low-hanging fruit, it will be, yes, absolutely, to minimise the waste that is generated by your own organisation.
Great. Anything to add on that, Ryan?
I think Steve's covered it pretty well. Yeah, addressing waste is that low-hanging fruit where you can get started on the journey. But one of the biggest barriers is that lack of information on the circular economy and how you implement that. So that's where the ACE Hub can help. But it also, you may also need experts to help delve down into the business, into the specifics of what the business does as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think the collaboration piece, Brooke, which has run through for the whole session, so to make sure you're engaging and you're building the right sort of ecosystem to get the right questions answered as well. Probably got time for one more. I'll put this one up. It might be outside of what we were talking through, but we'll see. Lux asks, do you have advice on alternative investment models that factor environmental benefits, risks as a cost that allows for better comparison of options? Does anyone have any ideas around that?
Not personally. I'm sure colleagues of mine could probably answer this question with a bit more authority. But I'm pretty sure that there would be these types of models out there. But yeah, I could take that on board and find out more. But Steve might know.
Yeah.
Oh, I only know that the Close the Loop group has recently listed on the ASX, and there are various organisations that analyse listed companies in terms of their environmental benefits or risk, so that there's a comparison. That's a way of comparing what you might be investing in, Luke. But no, I'm a little bit bereft of quality answer for you there either, Luke.
That's all good. Look, what we'll do is connect you with the teams and make sure that we can have a look into that, because that's sort of like another phase, isn't it? And that external analysis is so important, not only to show obviously that you're investing in the right things, but that the outcomes are actually happening, which was more to the point of the first question. For everybody online, that was a great set of questions. I think we got through most of them. If I have missed them, I'll make sure I connect you with the team and you can walk through that. Look, that was a sensational session. I really hope everybody online enjoyed the session. I think, as I said before we kicked off the Q&A, really got a good understanding of what the circular economy is and what it means to businesses. and some of the changes that we can all sort of contribute towards sort of driving a circular economy. And yeah, as you saw from the use cases, it's kind of like, do you lead the horse to water, or does the horse find its own water? There was some really creative ways in which a lot of Australian organisations are tackling this challenge. And then some of the economic outcomes are just phenomenal, that we put up, the cost savings in that AMP build, as well as the overall potential for Australia's GDP if we all do pursue this with greater fanfare. So very exciting times. Ryan, Steve, thanks so much for your contributions. And I'm sure that the business and government community online really, really appreciate your time and your observations.
No problem.
Awesome. And then very finally, I did get a couple of requests for the PowerPoint. Look, I'll just triple check that before I let you know, just so I don't get in trouble. But there are those handouts there. If you've missed the handouts, just shoot our team an email. And this session's available on demand. So if it sparks some interest and you think, you know what, I should get my team involved, or I've got a new project coming up, or let's have a look at this in greater detail, send around the link, the on-demand link, and hopefully it can sort of ignite some dialogue from within your business as well. So until next time, everybody, I hope you stay safe, happy, and well. And we look forward to continuing this conversation. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.